This is Rajni. Welcome to True Path Astrology. The first solar eclipse for this year is falling on June 10th, 2021. And in this video, I will be discussing how this solar eclipse will impact all of the 12 signs. And this will be a general prediction based on Lagna or the ascendant sign. Now, the eclipse is not going to be a full-blown eclipse at this time. And although this is a solar eclipse, the moon is what is going to be badly affected in the solar eclipse. Now, usually when lunar eclipse happens, sun will never get affected. But when solar eclipse happens, moon could get affected most of the time, depending on how it is placed and with who it is placed. And I'll explain why. So whenever an eclipse forms, it is conjunct with either Rahu or Ketu. And when a child is born on a solar eclipse day, and if the sun is not in a good position, it is a known fact that the child may not have that much of self-confidence, and also the child's immune system is bound to be weak at that time in that scenario. Now, this particular solar eclipse on June 10, 2021, sun is actually not that much affected because there is a huge gap in the degrees between Rahu and the sun. And sun has crossed Rahu and is far away from Rahu. So sun is not that badly affected, I should say. And from an astrological point of view, yes, we can say that although this is still an eclipse, sun is not affected at all, but rather the moon is going to be badly afflicted. Yes, you heard it right. Moon is what we need to worry about during this solar eclipse and not the sun, as I explained to you earlier. Now, those who have their moon badly placed in their birth chart, you are going to feel the most impact on the solar eclipse day. And in fact, moon will start to get affected, I can say, right from June 9th onwards until midday of June 10th, after which moon will be moving forward. So those with weak moon, try and keep your mind calm and composed on June 9th and 10th as much as possible. Try not to go near water or do any activity near a large body of water, and don't undertake any water-based travel, like traveling in a boat or ship. Basically, on these 2 days, try and keep your mind very calm. I should say entertain happy thoughts, especially keep away from any addiction habits on these 2 days. Don't overindulge in any sort of addictions. Anyways, addiction never brings good results anytime. When moon is under the influence of Rahu and Ketu, addiction could get out of hands generally. So those with weak moon, you may want to devote your time by engaging in some spiritual activities, reading scriptures maybe, or basically engage in good thoughts and good activities in the couple of days around eclipse. Stay indoors as much as possible to limit your interaction with others to avoid any unnecessary conflicts. Now, before I go further, may I please remind you to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And this means a lot to me. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so any new videos I post, you will be notified of that right away. Okay, let's move on. The solar eclipse is happening in the sign of Taurus this time. There is Rahu, Sun, Moon, and Mercury in the sign of Taurus. Now, moon generally gets easily influenced by Rahu and Mercury, even otherwise. And to add to that, Rahu and Saturn are in the nakshatra of the moon this solar eclipse day. Now, that is why moon is being badly affected. And on top of all this, we have aspect of retrograde Saturn on the Cancer sign and the debilitated Mars. We know the ruler of the moon, Cancer sign is moon. So you see here, we have Sun, Rahu, and then we have retrograde Mercury, and then we have Rahu and Saturn in Moon's nakshatra. Then we have retrograde Saturn aspecting the Cancer sign where debilitated Moon is posited. So this is the reason when this is a solar eclipse, we are talking about the moon here. Do you see now why? Okay, so those who have the time period, or I should say Mahadasha or Antardasha or the Pratyantardasha of the moon, and if in your chart, birth chart, you have Rahu or Saturn affecting your moon somehow, either through aspect or conjunction, you need to take good care of yourself starting right from June 9th and on June 10th as well. Now, mainly on June 9th, because on June 10th, moon would have moved forward a bit away from the planetary cluster in the Taurus sign, as I mentioned earlier. So, okay, let us now look at the impact of the solar eclipse on all of the 12 signs. But before I do that, I want to clear some myths about the eclipse here. Many a times, I should say, I see that when eclipse happens, people generally talk about the effect of the eclipse on all the areas of one's life. No, it doesn't happen that way. We often hear, don't get married, be careful with your finance, don't change jobs, and all those sort of things. Trust me, eclipse does not affect everyone in all the areas of your life. The only areas where one could get impacted could be related to the house where the eclipse is happening in their chart and the relevant planet that is being affected on the day of the eclipse. And if one happens to run the Mahadasha of that planet, that's when it's going to get those areas will get affected, not all of those areas. So we need to just get rid of the unnecessary fears that eclipse brings. The very word eclipse we hear, we are afraid. No need of that. So moving forward, let us talk about Aries. For Aries, eclipse is happening in your second house. Aries ascendant could experience some lack of happiness in the family. And since second house denotes finance, you need to be extra careful while making any major decisions regarding your finance. Now, you need to take care of your mother's health around that eclipse period. Now, for Taurus, the eclipse falls in your first house. Now, you may experience some lack of self-confidence, and you may lose control of your willpower, some of you. You need to avoid conflict with family members, and some of you could hear some bad news about one of your family members during this time. Now, moving on to Gemini ascendant. Eclipse is happening in your 12th house for all Gemini ascendants. You are not going to be affected that much. Any travel you may undertake may not be fruitful. Yes, you may need to be careful of your health. Watch out for any unnecessary, or I should say unplanned expenses during this time. Now, moving on to Cancer. Now, eclipse for you is happening in your 11th house. You are one of those signs who could be badly impacted. Now, Cancer ascendant may need to be careful of their health. Any major decisions related to finance or income should not be taken during this time, and avoid making or even planning to bring on some changes to your career or your finance structure at this time. And generally, effects of the eclipse could be felt for at least, say, 15 days after the eclipse. So avoid taking any major decisions. You will save yourself from a lot of trouble. And also keep your mind calm. Watch out for the negative chatter in your head. Catch it immediately and replace those thoughts with happy and positive thoughts right away. Now, don't let yourself get influenced easily by anything bad, at least for these 2 or 3 days. Now, moving on to Leo ascendant, eclipse is happening in your 10th house. In fact, for Leo ascendant, I would say this eclipse is going to bear some good fruit, and some of you could see some gain in your career, and some of you may benefit from transfer of jobs or change in position at work, and because sun is not being affected in this eclipse. Now, in fact, Leo ascendant could experience some unexpected money gain, and you could see yourself initiating some new ventures at this time, and you could gain from travel, career, and business. And because sun is not that affected, your self-confidence will remain the usual high, and your thought process will be as powerful and positively aggressive, which is the usual for you guys. Now, moving on to Virgo. For you, you could see some problems in the areas related to your income. Now, eclipse will be falling on the 9th house of luck and fortune for you. Luck may not favor you that much. Work that you wanted to see progress may face some hurdles and obstructions at this time. You will also need to take care of your health. And some of you could experience some pushback from your near and dear ones at this time. That may be cause of concern for you. Moving on to Libra, eclipse for you will be in your 8th house. Eighth house is of your father. Your father could get some challenges, face some challenges, and you could face some conflicts with your father, and it could be related to some inheritance for some of you, and the conflict with your father could be based on some inheritance. Of course, your health needs to be taken care of at this time for you as well. Now, Scorpio, the eclipse is falling in your 7th house. You may not have any problems related to your business or your work at this time, but you could face problems in marital life and problems related to luck factor. Now, I would say don't initiate any new ventures for at least 3 or 4 days around this eclipse, and don't sign any documents or avoid getting into new agreements at this time, because luck is not on your side at this time. So it is important you take care of your spouse at this time as well. Now, moving on to Sagittarius, not much of an impact on you. Eclipse will be in your 6th house. Health problems you may have been facing for quite some time now could see major improvements happening for some of you. Health problems, in fact, could vanish. Luck for you, I should say, is average. Some of you could get out of debt. You will win over your enemies. Well, by enemies, I mean not enemies in human form, but enemies like debts, enemies like illness, or anything that could trouble you. They're all categorized as enemies, if you know what I mean. Now, moving on to Capricorn. Eclipse for you is falling in your 5th house. Now, there could be problems related to marital life for some of you. Your spouse could get affected with problems. Your decisions could go wrong at this time. Now, students may face hindrance in their education. Now, breakup in love and romance is highly likely at this time for some of you. Your mind will be restless. So do everything possible to control your mind at this time by injecting some positive affirmations from time to time. Now, moving on to Aquarius, eclipse will be in your 4th house. Now, problems in family could arise for some of you. Any money that you lend to others at this time means you can write off that amount for good. Of course, you should help those people that are needy. No questions about that. You should help the needy people, but don't consider that help as a loan. Then you will be fine. Now, health could create some problems for some of you. Your mind could be restless with concerns related to your family members. Now, avoid any heated discussions with close family members, I would say. Now, moving on to Pisces. Now, eclipse for Pisces ascendants will be in your 3rd house. You could be feeling a bit strange these 2 days. Now, you could see a huge dip in your self-confidence. You may have no enthusiasm to perform even the basics of your daily tasks or duties, and you need to take care of your health, of course. Now, one of your siblings could face some health challenges as well. Now, I would say don't expect any cooperation from your near and dear ones at this time to come to you. Now, your children could face some minor problems which may be the cause for some of your concerns. Now, with that, I will end this by saying that whichever sign you are, irrespective, You are highly encouraged to keep your mind calm and composed at this time. Don't get into unnecessary conflicts, and be aware and catch your mind chatter and convert any negative thoughts with good positive thoughts immediately. And I would also say drink plenty of water and hydrate yourself, and hope all of you keep safe and well. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.